What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash. And today we're going to give you our NFL breakout players for the upcoming NFL season. We've each got a few lined up. But before we get into that, we'd like to bring on Ben Pfeifer to talk about the Pacers in the finals. Absolutely crazy. I asked people on Twitter what the NFL comparison of a Pacers Thunder final is, and I saw a lot of Bills Commanders. Do you think that's true?
That kind of works out, but also the NFL doesn't have the same problem as the NBA where like it doesn't care at all about small markets. Like I think you guys talked about before, like, yeah, the Green Bay Packers being like a flagship franchise. It's like, can you imagine Adam Silver's face if someone asked him to relocate a team to Green Bay? Like, yeah, no, it wouldn't happen. But the Pacers are in the finals, and that's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. Well, thank you for coming on to talk basketball. I know literally nothing, so it's great to have someone who can shoot the shit with Matt on this stuff.
It's like he's a pet in our zoo, and we've given him an animal from another enclosure.
Became a friend.
It's a lot of pressure.
They're not supposed to know that I live in Stay Hot's basement. It's
No.
They don't know about the Twitter group chat.
So I think that this is a great finals, but there's definitely a bit of a David versus Goliath element to it. And so what people are worried about is, well, it's a great story, but is it just going to go 4 and the Thunder dominate? And I guess my first question is, like, why will or will not that happen? That was bad grammar, but
it was good enough for me. But yeah, I don't think it's going to go like that. I'm not going to predict the Pacers to win. I don't think I can really do that. But I will say that I think it's going to be, probably 5 or 6 games, but I think most, if not all of the games will be competitive. Like, I do believe in the Pacers to that extent. And hey, they've been incredible in close games. So who knows? If you can just get a couple situations like that against OKC, maybe you can flip a couple of those games in ways that most teams generally can't. But the Pacers are really, really good. I mean, they have 2 guys who are playing like all NBA players right now in Tyrese and Pascal Siakam. They have a whole band of incredible role players. They have one of the 5 best, conservatively, the 5 best coaches in the league. They're not the Thunder by any means. They don't have an MVP level engine like they do. We don't have, maybe once upon a time, but there's no rim protector like Chet Holmgren on this team.
Right.
It's going to be a tough task against a very scary and much scarier defense in Oklahoma City than New York could really muster. But yeah, I think they have a chance. I wouldn't totally rule this team out, even though I wouldn't pick them to win necessarily.
It would take some crazy stuff from Halliburton, I think. I mean, I know that his MO is making the right decision all the time and not turning the ball over, but sometimes, like, what would usually be the right decision against another defense is the wrong decision against OKC. The amount of pressure that they're able to put on guys, the ability to jump passes and whatnot. It only takes a couple of those plays to start a run or to flip a game. I do agree OKC has some vulnerabilities in the sense of, like, they haven't been perfect in close games. They've made some dumb decisions there. They don't have the coaching advantage. Their shooters are like a little finicky, and if things like start to go south, especially like when they're in a series that I feel like they know they should win, which they should win this series.
They should. They should.
Fair, right?
They should win this series.
The expectation is that it would be like one of the great disasters of NBA finals, and just in terms of like betting odds, like that's where it lands right now.
So I shouldn't put my mortgage on the Pacers right now.
You shouldn't, unless you want to take a long shot to get like 6 times as rich as you are currently. That's about where it is.
You could have 6 mortgages.
Yeah, that's so true. Let me take out a HELOC to bet on Pacers.
I went from 1 mortgage to 6 mortgages. This shit sucks. That's actually the average lottery winner. They all go broke.
No, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Hopefully your next Dallas Mavericks.
But I just think eventually you get to the point, or not you get to the point, but there's times where if they're shooting poorly, they can start to get nervous, and then they don't want to take shots, and then the defense can just collapse in on everything inside. It's like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to stick through the bad moments. And in the Denver series, they had some moments like that, and I feel like early in the Timberwolves series, they started to do that, but their shooting just never got quite bad enough to where it was an issue. They're really not, like a team filled with mega elite shooters more than they are a team that's got a lot of guys who are capable shooters, but that's, a big difference. That's a big bucket to put guys in, basically. But I do wonder, it's like if there's just not a big interior presence, and if there's nobody who's going to be able to handle Shea constantly, and the Thunder, I feel like maybe have already kind of learned their lesson from the Nuggets series. I mean, that was a series where they made the mistake with the shooting. That was a series where, they not only lost a close game, but they blew one. And with the fouling up 3 stuff, but then not waiting any time to do it is just a total blunder, right? So I almost wonder if a lot of the stuff that needed to happen for them to lose already has, but I really do think the Pacers are a good team. I think that their offense will be, I think on that side of the ball, OKC's defense versus the Pacers offense is going to be awesome.
So good.
And I think it's going to be something where it's but if that's Battle of the Giants over there, and then we feel like the Thunder have a pretty clear advantage on a Pacers defense that just doesn't have that much to throw at, an offense that's been looking pretty good recently. I feel like you got to.
I'll definitely give Nembhard some credit in terms of what he can do on Shea. I'd like to see a lot more of that than we got in the regular season matchups, where they were switching and kind of hedging and doing a lot more stuff. Just because Nembhard, and we're going to see the ball pressure. We're going to see the Pacers pick up Shea beyond half court, because that way, they can't just let him sag off and get into his ball screens. But I think Nembhard and Nesmith are okay-ish options relative to, what you could have. But the interior defense for the Pacers is definitely a little scary. Pascal was so good in the Eastern Conference Finals helping out, but we saw how Towns just demolished the Pacers on drives, and how Brunson got to the paint whenever he wanted. And obviously the Thunder don't have players like that, but I'm sure they're going to have to show more help than they usually like to at Shea. The Pacers, it takes a lot for them to leave their gaps. They're kind of opposite of a lot of modern defenses who are really aggressive and love to just help and swarm. But the Pacers will let guys play in space so they don't give up threes. But against Shea, at some point, I just don't think you can do that. And to be fair, they had moments. I think in Game 6 they probably did that more than they had in the rest of the series. So they've done a really good job adapting this year and just being super physical, super annoying. They can just play they don't have traditionally elite defenders. They don't have a big wing like an OG Anunoby, and right. Miles Turner is good for what he is, but he's not an elite rim protector like he used to be maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But they just have a bunch of guys with the most incredible stamina and conditioning and IQ you've ever seen. Their conditioning is genuinely unbelievable. The way that they just pick up full court and switch and do a bunch of stuff, and they're constantly running around on offense the whole time, and they just do that the entire game, and they don't get worn out. And obviously part of it is because they play a lot of guys, they're willing to go deep into the bench. But so are OKC, right? I think that's the one other team that certainly has the depth to match the Pacers, where they have 10 guys who they can rely on. They've played 10, 11 actual rotation players in the playoffs, and the Pacers are going to need just obviously Halliburton, like you said, is just going to have to play the best version of himself, which I think he can. But the Pacers are just going to need a heroic series from their bench as well, which could happen, of course, but it's hard to bank on even when it's as good as they are.
Right. They're clearly a good, well-coached team with a lot of options. That's what makes me hopeful about them, where it's not just there's defenses that you don't trust as much where it's like they're going to be putting out multiple just dud defenders and it's so easy to go at them and attack them. With the Pacers, I feel like it's not quite that bad. But still, I do think, the Thunder probably just have a little bit too much depth. And I think we'll kind of maybe look back on this team if the Thunder can finish it out and say, well, they were a team who we talked about all year as having great depth, and also they now have the MVP and like multiple All-NBA players. Like that's what it looks like on paper. So
it's a ridiculously good team. I mean, it's been such a... I really hate how the consensus opinion of this team has just been like they're boring to watch and they're like a disgrace to the sport, when in reality they're...
I was about to ask your thoughts on the foul baiting stuff because it's all I see about Shai.
Well, so for the duration of the series, as a Pacers fan, he's an affront to the game of basketball, and he should never be allowed in an NBA game again. But in reality, it's, I don't know, just overblown. I mean, everyone's seen the stuff where like his just like foul generating numbers are like not historically
they're not that high.
They're not crazy for your high usage lead guards. Like he just doesn't draw as many. He draws a lot of fouls, no doubt, but like he's not holding a candle to prime Harden, or even like Westbrook, or even like Westbrook had plenty of seasons where he drew more fouls. It really is just like I think the manner and how he does it, because he's not like a traditionally like hyper explosive athlete. He's just this unbelievably bendy, elastic, flexible, coordinated player who obviously is like fast and explosive. He's not like a slow player by any means. He's a very good athlete. He's just not like Westbrook or Anthony Edwards, but the way he can just like contort his body and like move his ankles in weird positions to get low, it's just difficult to guard without fouling. And sure, he definitely does foul bait and sell some contact sometimes. Like no one's denying that's a part of his game, but it's not it's not more of a part of his game than any star. And maybe this is just because like I'm partial to the Thunder, but I do appreciate that Shai is not nearly as much of like a complainer as some other stars can be. Like he'll definitely argue a whistle every once in a while, but like you watch like Anthony Edwards in that series like across the way, and it's just like every single time, regardless of whether or not he's right. He's definitely right sometimes where they, miss the calls. But Shai, I mean, maybe it's because he gets the calls and he's going to get them. But he's just like...
Yeah, what's he got to complain about?
He's got nothing to complain about. He knows he's getting the call. But he's just a very composed... I mean, he's obviously a composed person and a very composed player. And I think, that helps him draw fouls, right? It helps him stay in his game plan. And... bottom line, if you don't want him to go to the line, don't foul him.
Right. I mean, he's not only like not really shooting that many free throws for what he's doing, but he's actually shooting like a pretty low number of free throws for somebody who, is putting up 30. He was scoring champ this year,
Yep.
You go back and look at like Kevin Durant. I think of Kevin Durant, and probably most people do, as like the true pure scorer, like in every facet. When he won his 4 scoring titles, he averaged like 9 free throw attempts a game, slightly higher than what Shai has right now.
How could he not? How could he not? Right?
Well, if you shoot a lot, you're gonna get a lot of free throws. If you score a lot, you're gonna get a lot of free throws. The issue is that it works that way. Shot attempts and scoring leads to more free throws.
Yeah.
But then people look at it and they say, well, this guy has a lot of free throws and that's why he has so many points. It's like, that's not what's really happening.
Right.
The only dude that like breaks that mold is like Steph Curry, where he's just taking so many threes and he has such a different game, where he just doesn't get fouled quite as often. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely don't get the idea that like, foul attempts lead to points. Cause like, Matt, we were on vacation and we're watching the Thunder. And this is the first time I've watched Shai this year. And I'm like, oh my God, he's like falling sideways, making shots. And like, he gets fouled, but I'm like, how in the world did he make that?
Shai has some Justin Jefferson in him, in the way he moves his body.
I like that,
100%.
It's like the coordination and the balance and like the flexibility. And I think I really notice it in just like the change of directions too, where obviously like you watch any like 10-second highlight of Justin Jefferson and you'll see him changing directions in a way that would make me probably tear something. And Shea does the same thing. But I wanted to also point out that in the playoffs, Shea is not even first in the league in free throw rate in playoffs. He's not second. He's not third. He's fifth. He's behind Benedict Mathurin, of all people, one of them. So keep the same energy for my Canadian star, okay? Let's.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And about Shea, like even more than the lots of attempts and he's so good. Like he's such a good mid-range shooter that like, and his body control is so good that he's like, I know how to draw a foul and it's just an easier way for me to get to the line. Like half the time it's a clear foul what he's doing or what he got, right? They like whack him across both arms. But like the things that he's doing to draw that foul and like the fakes that he's making and the things he's doing to get the defender nervous are like so crazy impressive sometimes, I think. Like there really is an art to foul baiting. It's not like you draw the free throws and it's like, oh, the game stops. It's not as good as just making like, and it maybe it's not, right? But like the play that Shea made to get to the line is as good as any shot a lot of the times. And it's the same kind of competitive problem solving that you love to see when it's a great catch or it's a great, block or it's a great anything. Like
Totally.
People got to change their mindset on like what foul drawing actually
like
is.
you
like,
said, his mid-range shooting is so crazy. Like it is, I'm surprised he isn't more loved by like the real Hooper old head community, or maybe he is just because he is like the most throwback elite scorer in the league. Like he's like over 10 mid-range attempts per 75 possessions at 50%. Like that's Kevin Durant stuff. Like that's insane.
I bet on his assists. I bet on him to get a double-double one time just because why not? And I was like, I don't know much about his playmaking game. And I'm like, it seems pretty easy for a guard this good to get 10 assists, right? And then I like lock more into him, right? And I'm noticing like he doesn't really pass because he just scores in the mid-range like all the time. Like there's really no reason for him to kick and throw it to somebody else when he could drive, step back and put a shot up. Like why would you ever even pass it? But he still did get his double-double. And I did win my bet. So he's that good where he wasn't even passing like I thought he would, and he was still getting, 12 assists. It was game, I think 5 of the two.
His passing's been quite good in the playoffs. I've thought. I think he's generally done quite a good job countering the coverages that teams like to play against him, which are just like, hey, we're going to have your defender, and then we're going to have a guy just like standing right next to him. He's not necessarily guarding you yet, but he will be soon. And we just don't care who else is on the floor. But yeah.
What does Halliburton have to do to have a good series, do you think? Last series, Ant saw a lot of attention from like Dort off the ball. There was a game where he didn't even get a shot until like the second quarter or something like that, or 4 seconds left in the first, I think. Do you think Halliburton is better equipped to deal with that kind of defensive game plan or that kind of attention, or do you think he can be kind of taken away by the Thunder like Ant was?
I honestly do think so, just because he's so damn impactful even when he's not scoring. And Ant, I think, honestly was too. I think Ant got too much hate in that series, I'm going to be honest. Like, I think, especially in the game where he like didn't shoot the ball and didn't score, like he was, most of those plays, I don't have tons of problems with specific moments where he's not being aggressive. Like that's just how the Thunder play.
It was a great offensive game from the team.
And people, exactly. And people are, right, that was one of their was that their best offensive game?
I think it was. Yeah.
It was like they scored a bunch of points and they got a bunch of great shots all game. And Halliburton obviously has no problem doing that, right? Like he's just going to hit a head pass, he's going to skip, he's going to turn his drives into screens. I am curious to see how he beats the Thunder's coverage, because I'm sure they're going to play the same, the same full court pickup that Indiana's going to do to OKC. I assume OKC is going to do to Halliburton. Like the Knicks were trying it with Mikal Bridges and it wasn't really working because Mikal's not that great of a defender, but it definitely worked to some extent. Suns legend Mikal Bridges.
Don't let them hear you. He's not that good of a defender.
Look, Knicks fans will probably be the first ones to tell you at this point after they watched him get cooked the entire series, I must say. But Yeah, I mean,
Until
Halliburton.
the Suns fans, they've deified.
He's so good because of how he can impact the game without traditional box score stuff. And obviously he can like put up crazy scoring nights and like the narrative you'll hear every time, which is mostly true. Like I think when Halliburton is playing aggressively and looking for his shot, the Pacers are a better team. That's undoubtedly true. I mean, he is just an unbelievable shot maker. Like he is crazy good. His isolation scoring in the playoffs has been more efficient than it was in the regular season, which is crazy. He's doing it more, and it's like about 1% more, or like a point per 100 more efficient. And the way that he's able to just like shoot over bigs on switches and get to the rim when he, actually decides that he can and remembers that he can. But even when Halliburton is playing aggressive and getting downhill, but passing, he's still really effective, right? So I think that's what he's going to have to do to beat Oklahoma City's defense. Like he's going to have the ball a lot, obviously, and be aggressive a lot, obviously. But I don't think that's necessarily just, represented in scoring aggression. And I think for the most part, he did a really good job of that. He's done a good job of that so far. And aside from Game 5 in the Knicks series, he's been really good. Like if we just look at raw usage rate, which is just, percentage of a team's possession a player uses with a shot or a turnover, Halliburton ranks like 25th in the playoffs. It's not that high. But if we use stats like there's a stat called offensive load that measures kind of similar stuff but factors in the amount of chances that a player creates, Halliburton's like right next to Brunson and Giannis and Jokic. So like maybe like traditional box score stats have a hard time capturing his impact sometimes. And even when they do capture his impact, and, I think even defensively, like he's gotten a bunch of steals this playoffs. He's been playing some of the best defensive ball I've ever seen him play, which like I'm quite surprised by how well he's playing on defense. And the Thunder are for sure going to make him work. They're going to target him. They're going to put him in screens. They're for sure going to have whoever Halliburton's guarding, which is likely going to be Dort in the starting lineups. He'll probably spend time on like a Caruso or a Case and Wallace. They're just going to set screens with his defender and force Halliburton to switch onto Shea or J-Dub or to, try to guard and drop like a big, which obviously isn't easy for any guard. But
yeah,
he's been impressive this series. And while, again, it's going to be tough for him because Oklahoma City is probably the best defense that I've ever watched, but yeah,
That's
he's got a chance.
High praise.
He's got a chance. I mean, I am a child, but
it's at least five defenses.
It's not a super uncommon take, at least from what I've seen, that they're, among the greatest defenses ever. I've seen a lot of people just straight up be like, yeah, this is the best defense ever. I don't know if I have done the research on all the oldest great defenses of like the 80s and 90s to make that call, but just in terms of like the way they're able to take over games so quickly, it's almost like the defensive version of like when the prime Warriors could like hit a bunch of threes on you real quick and just rip the game away. They can jump a bunch of passes, or Alex Caruso can go and off and generate a couple of ridiculous steals, and then they get out in transition. It's gonna be a fast series, I'm hoping. There's gonna be some moments where it's flying. So I'm pretty pumped for that, although I'm a little worried if the Pacers can keep it super competitive, I guess.
Fair enough.
You guys are making me want to tune into the finals this year.
You should. I'm definitely going to tune in. It definitely feels like the ultimate David versus Goliath with all the numbers the Thunder have put up, but then all the clutch plays that Halliburton has had. Like it feels like he's the guy with the slingshot or
there's
whatever.
Something there's something
sling.
about it. They
got that David aura. They do. Yeah. So I'm excited for it. And yeah, the Thunder's defense, though, it does pass my eye test of greatest ever. I just needed to see Dort like prevent some Randall back-ins in the Timberwolves series. I'm like, that's a guard and that's Julius Randle. And he just like stood him up cold and made him pass and it got stolen. Like that was...
Yeah, Randall had a terrible time against Oklahoma.
He had a terrible
guards. It was not rough. It's like, oh, Caruso? Nope, can't score on him. Kaysen? Nope, can't score on him.
Yeah, against the guards. So it's pretty wild what the Thunder are able to do. And I do think I'll take them because of that defense. But I think the Pacers are going to continue to like outshoot them by a pretty decent margin. And like you said, the Thunder don't really have the guys with the mentality to take over the paint like the Pacers probably don't want them to do. So we'll say like Pacers in 6, or maybe they get to 7 and it's one of those games where they get to 7 and then get like slaughtered. Like, maybe I'll make one of those series.
Say Pacers in 6. I mean, I could totally see a world where they get swept. It's certainly
you mean Thunder in 6?
Thunder in 6. Yes, I didn't mean to say Pacers.
The little
optimistically. The voice in my head is trying to get me to believe in it. And who knows?
And I think for that reason, I have to pick the Pacers.
You do have to pick the Pacers. There's never been a team that screams Blaiden pick more than the Pacers. And maybe
you know what? Maybe I will put a little bit of money down.
I have $1 on the. I had $14 in my FanDuel account, and I'm trying to work it up to $1 million.
How much?
And so my betting unit is like 50 cents, and I put $1 on my page.
Oh God!
It's like the
I'm up to $24 because of the Shea double.
It's like, is it gonna happen?
What are the betting?
And I can have 6 mortgages.
The betting odds, I think it's around like Thunder minus 750.
I think I got them at plus 500, $1 to win 10 or something.
But
That's
for
insane.
comparison, that's what the Pistons odds were against the Lakers back in 2004, and who won that series. So anything can happen.
Giants Patriots, man, that could be this series.
That could be.
Tyrese is our Eli Manning.
You have someone who's a bit more turnover prone. Is Siakam? Can Siakam be the Eli, and then maybe
I hate to say that he
like
turns
Justin
the ball
Tuck
over even less than Tyrese Halliburton does. Thomas Bryant turns the ball over a lot. Shout out to Thomas Bryant, by the way.
Shout out to Thomas Bryant, dude. I couldn't believe what I was seeing last night, man.
You and me both, man. I just looked it up. He's 3rd in the entire playoffs in turnover rate, so we can take him. He can be our spiritual Eli Manning, and then do a cool Monday Night Football broadcast with his brother one day. Well, I'll be looking forward to it. The Bryant cast is going to go triple.
Once he gets this ring, it's going to happen.
This is how the NBA is going to revive their ratings.
This is how we fix the ratings.
NFL. Exactly, the Bryant cast. But Ben, thank you for joining us for this lovely NBA conversation.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're gonna get into an ad read here in a second. So,
Seems like a good spot to stop. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
All right, so you heard it here first. The Pacers are going to win the finals, but if you want to stay up to date on what we're thinking about the finals, more so maybe Matt, you should definitely join this new group chat we formed with Chat BCC, this group chat platform where you just hang out with some fans, hang out with your host. Really, it brings kind of the Stay Hot community together as friends more so than anything else. We're actually launching it like as this episode is coming out. So we're going to be on there talking about basketball. I know Matt will be talking about the finals. And then when football season rolls around, we'll be doing some live talking about the games in there as well. We'll maybe talk about some OTAs as well heading into it. Matt?
Maybe even talk about which fruit is the face of the league of fruits, which I thought was very easily apples. I didn't think that was going to be a hot take, but I was hearing a lot of
horrible take. But
well, who do you have?
Matt. You're right, Matt. But this is the kinds of electric discussion.
We won't give it away here.
We won't give it away here.
You'll have to join the Chat BBC discussion to watch us go into depth. I was thinking about doing a bracket. An aura bracket on there because they got the voting feature, and then maybe I could do the aura bracket, 32 players, maybe across all sports, and then we can find the aura king. So if that sounds like something that would be I don't know if that'll get anybody to join or if it'll get nobody to join, but
that'll actually get less people to join.
I'm not going to the aura bracket.
The aura off.
If you don't like it, I'm going to be giving out league winning fantasy advice.
Yeah, you don't have to participate in that. It could be, you can participate in just the sports conversations. You can participate in just the apples or mid conversation. But regardless, go to stayhot.chat in your browser, download the Chat BCC app, and you'll be joined into what some are calling the greatest group chat of the 21st century. But let's get into these NFL breakout players. We've got a few people that I feel like are just going to get talked about. So I'm going to get the meme out of the way. Kyle Pitts is not going to be talked about today. Anthony Richardson maybe should be talked about, but I don't know if he will be. But Matt, who is your first breakout player?
All right. I think this one's kind of a gimme too, but I think Nate Wiggins is probably going to get a lot more love in terms of like award voting or whatever. I think ended up like 8th or 9th in defensive rookie of the year voting, and he was just a better player than that last year. I will admit, like early in the season, he wasn't getting as many snaps. I think he played like 68% total. But by the end of the year, he was starting, and that includes the playoffs for the Ravens. He's a guy that we really, really loved coming out of the draft, and I don't feel any different about him now. He is a lighter guy, but he's not light for no reason, right? He's incredibly quick on his feet, and his reaction time, his ability to mirror guys is just as good as it needs to be for that to really matter. I think he also does a great job of like reading what the quarterback is doing or where he's looking when he's in zone, which means that he's able to jump a lot of routes and make a lot of plays. And I also think that like he's really not that lacking in the physicality department, not for somebody his size.
No.
So he's going to be playing in an absolutely loaded secondary next year. I'm really excited to see it. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the Pro Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes off and starts pushing for like maybe some all-pro consideration. Not saying he'll get it, but will he be in the conversation? Possibly.
No, I mean, Matt, you're absolutely right. The reason why he didn't get any like real consideration for D-Roy last year is because he played like 200 fewer snaps than the other guys in that conversation. So that really hurt him. But he like with Brandon Stevens leaving and Marlon Humphrey getting older, like he's going to definitely be taking on a bigger role this season. I think he's ready for it. I think like that's a guy I had written down, but I figured one of you would bring it up. So yeah, Nate Wiggins, definite breakout.
Theo, who do you get?
I am going to start with Alec Pierce, a different Indianapolis Colt, not Anthony Richardson. But Pierce, to me, already had a little bit of a breakout. He was very good last year, more productive than people expected. But I think there's still even more meat on the bone if they can rise above like a 50% completion team.
Right.
Pierce is just such a money deep threat. I mean, he's a special deep threat. Like
his skill set is just so well built for it.
It's so well built for it. He's got not the best speed in the league because Tyreek Hill still has that.
No.
But when he gets going, I mean, the guy might be second, and he gets going so fast. Like off the line of scrimmage, it's a blur. So even if he's not getting the ball, he's still one of the best, like, take the top off, open stuff up for guys underneath type players. But he's so fast and he's so big and he's so physical that he's also just the top guy that you want to throw the ball to downfield. I mean, he averaged 22 yards per target last year, or per reception. He averaged 11 yards per target. So every time they threw this guy the ball,
near 12 yards per target. He led the league.
I mean, that's crazy.
Stats.
Yeah. So every time they throw it to him, they are picking up a first down on average. He just crushed it in all the advanced stats. Like he was one of the top DVOA receivers in the entire league, like EPA one per target. Like because he's so proficient as a deep weapon, he can just really ramp up your efficiency in a way that nobody else can. And I think people might look at that and say, well, okay, he's a deep threat, but his value's capped, 800 yards type guy. Like, he takes the top off, but how much does he really get targeted? Like, he was so efficient last year. Like, maybe they'll say more should go his way, like more than the other receivers in this room. Like, And he can do some other stuff too. Like he destroys press coverage because he's big. And I've seen him dig out tough passes over the middle on digs. And his ball tracking he's so comfortable with it. And I saw him multiple times last year catch a tipped ball, like with one hand, like falling to the ground. Like I wish he was more physical at the catch point. Like he's not necessarily this head top you Calvin Johnson type of deep threat, right? But man, there's a lot of other parts to his game that are underrated besides just the speed. And I think like there was a time when Jordy Nelson was putting up like 1,200, 1,300 yard seasons, maybe even more than that. Now that was with Rodgers, but you can be just kind of a speedy deep threat guy and put up a lot more than 800, you know? So yeah. I think Pierce has a chance to even continue to ascend. I think he's he's a skilled blocker. Like why not have him on the field all the time and throw him more passes?
There's always a million receivers that you can point to and be like, oh yeah, this guy's going to break out this year. Like all Browns fans are saying it's going to be Cedric Tillman. Like it's just, especially with the Colts and especially with the Browns, it's so contingent on the quarterback situation to the point where it's hard for me to pick A.D. Mitchell, Downs, Alec Pierce to like go absolutely nuclear, because you can like scheme for them to get more looks. But is Richardson going to hit it? And if Richardson ends up getting benched, is Daniel Jones going to hit it? Like,
yeah.
So that's my only concern. And it's like the same concern I have with like people projecting like breakout receiving seasons in Cleveland. Like as good as the efficiency can be, as good as the skill set may be, they are so reliant on other things to go their way.
This is my way of sneaking Richardson into the breakout conversation.
Is that he's going to break out
through Richardson? Alec Pierce is going to be the real breakout.
We'll get to the fantasy episode. My favorite targets: A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce. I just think that offense is going to really come together and put up passing numbers. Yeah, I love Pierce. Obviously, he was great for Cincinnati. I totally agree. He's physical and fast, and he can track the ball. He's somebody where it's like this guy might not ever be a 1-1A guy, but it's pretty easy to see what his route to, or what his archetype can be in the NFL, and he's kind of met that. But I agree with you too, Blaiden. The reason why I wouldn't put any Colts wide receiver on my list is because the QB situation is like such a huge question mark. I mean, I like Pierce, but I also like Downs a lot too. And I liked Mitchell coming out of the draft as well. And I believe he was efficient with his targets that he saw. So I think it's totally possible. I think it's a good shout to say we're assuming that this is the peak of what Pierce can do. And that like doesn't necessarily have to be the case. It's kind of a bold assumption that he can only be within this archetype because he got drafted to be sort of like maybe a little bit of a specialist, right? But in terms of like him actually building on his numbers, which are already like pretty decent, it's a volume thing that I'm a little bit more questionable about because of the QB play.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't happen next year, and maybe it happens with a different quarterback. But man, I just think if you're the best deep threat in the league, which I think Pierce has the chance to be. I mean, Deshaun Jackson had 1,300 yard seasons too. And he wasn't necessarily this well-rounded, like everything type of guy. So, yeah, who knows what Pierce's numbers will really end up looking like? But I'm optimistic that they can continue to go up.
Nice. Well, I won't pick a receiver because you guys. I won't pick a receiver and I won't pick a corner because those are the two positions that have been listed. I'll actually go offensive line for my first breakout, and I'll throw Abe Lucas for Seattle. If he stays healthy, he has the potential to be like really one of the best tackles in football. I feel like every time he is out there, him and Cross, the tackle protection seems to be really good, but then he gets hurt and it's terrible after that. So I'm waiting for a season where he's fully healthy, and I'm hoping it's this year. And obviously the Seahawks are going through some not scheme changes, but they went through some personnel changes to like fit their scheme. So maybe things start working out a little bit more for Abe Lucas. He can stay healthy, but that's one guy where I'm like, I know he's good. I just need him to be on the field more.
Yeah, I could see it. I can see it. I can see the balance of Seattle's offense contributing to more efficiency from everybody that's involved in the passing game, and less really down moments.
Yeah.
I think that is certainly possible. I like that shout out.
Yeah. Shout out Abe Lucas. Matt, who else do you have?
I have Moro Ojomo, I think, has a chance to put up some pretty good numbers next year. Who
he play for?
Played the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Their D tackle. Yes.
He only played in about, I think, 35% of snaps last year. But with Milton Williams gone and them not making like another big move on the defensive line, I kind of think that he's tracking to have a much, much bigger role outside of Ty Robinson in the 4th round. I mean, he's probably listed as the starter at the moment, although I know we don't have any official depth charts out right
on
now.
ESPN,
right.
Yeah, he's listed as the starter.
Right. I think that his get off and his power are incredible. There's plays where he's just beating guys off of the line, and there's plays where he's maybe not winning off the line, but he's so quick that he can generate that speed into like a great bull rush. On top of that, like he is very strong, but it's not just in the sense of like, well, he can get off the line quick and has a lot of mass, so he can push people around. He's strong in his hands. He can rip guys down and throw them to the ground or throw them out of his way. I mean, the numbers for him were, I think PFF maybe had him at like 39 pressures, and just starting 35% of the snaps, but only 1 sack. So those numbers didn't look great for him. I think on a defense that's really good, playing next to other really good guys, maybe getting a bigger share of the snaps. And I think being a dude who was more of a developmental project, I mean, he was taken in the 7th round and who I feel like has really good traits. I mean, seriously, this is a dude with major power and I think the speed to like sometimes he'll stunt around or whatever, right? So I think there's a lot of like potential and a pretty high ceiling for him. So it seems like when the Eagles lose a guy, you're like, finally, we've gotten them. And then somebody out of nowhere comes up. I feel like the numbers and the tape and the fact that the Eagles are evil all point to
the Eagles are evil.
Ojomo being next.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go ahead, Theo.
I mean, Jalen Carter just draws so many double teams that the guy next to him is going to be a good breakout player candidate the rest of his career. Like, you're going to get the one-on-one with Ojomo, and he's just going to swipe your hands to the side, and he's got the quickness to really close on the quarterback after doing that. There's just not a lot of guards who can match his movement skills in those one-on-one situations.
Yeah. And you're saying he's playing 35% of the snaps. My guess is a lot of those snaps were probably without Jalen Carter / Jordan Davis on the field because he's probably rotating in for
with the
one
backup.
of those guys, right? So you're right, Theo. Him having like a role next to those guys, he could go absolutely nuclear. So that is a great pull, Matt.
I've also got a defensive tackle. He plays for the Bears, though, so maybe I shouldn't say him.
You should say he's going to be really bad.
Yeah, he's going to be a breakout in a bad way. It's going to break out how just shit he is. No, he's actually going to be good. It's Gervon Dexter. Yeah, he's kind of similar to Ojomo, but he was a bit of a higher draft pick, and I think has kind of a better body overall, like more powerful, bigger kind of frame. And he's someone who is kind of a liability. His first season, he only started 1 game, even though he's active for all 17. Didn't finish with any TFLs, 2.5 sacks. He started all 15 games that he played in last year, and his sack rate doubled. He got to 5. His tackles went from 20 to 51. His tackles for loss went to 0 to 4, 19 QB hits. Like he already had a little bit of a breakout, but this was a developmental guy coming out, drafted because of the traits, like bad rookie season at age 22, pretty good sophomore season. Like what could it look like this year? And I really like the tape that I saw from him getting pressure on some really good guards like Kevin Dotson. He won on Owenu in New England. He won on. He gave the Packers a lot of problems. They've got a good offensive line. I think it was Will Fries. He beat Brandon Scherf. He beat just going through the tape. He has got as active of hands as there is in the league. And there's a little bit of, I mean, he's not Chris Jones. He doesn't have that kind of power. But there is kind of that visual with him where he's very kind of tall and hulking, and his hands are just kind of this blur, and he's very quick sideline to sideline. So he'll just kind of juke out of your way if you're an offensive lineman, and then when you're trying to recover, he swipes at you, and he's just out of there. Like it happens over and over again with him. And he can sequence these things together pretty well. So even if he's getting double teamed, he could just do the same thing to the next guy right after the first guy. So you see him start to string together some really nice pass rushes, or he's beating quality linemen. He's explosive with his first step. So he can really get into you. He's got shorter arms and he's tall, but he can really get into you quickly. And once he's kind of established that initial jolt, he can hit you with his finesse, which he's just got so much of, like I said. And I don't think he's a great pure power rusher, but you did see it a little bit as you went through the pressures, and especially one on Brandon Scherf stood out to me where he kind of won that initial hand fighting battle, was pushing Scherf back. Scherf tried to go like reset his hands and get in a better position. And then Dexter kind of caught the reset and then parried it and was able to kind of keep going and flush Lawrence. So he's very technical, nuanced. He has the athletic ceiling that they drafted him for. He's seeing more playing time. He's getting more production. Like, the team figures to be a lot better, hopefully, in 2025, which just helps everybody. To be a breakout player, you kind of have to be on a breakout team as well. So, yeah, he's my pick, defensive tackle.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Love the defensive tackle. It's not all about the receivers and the quarterbacks, which I imagine we'll get to one of those here in a bit. But before I give my next player, I want to talk about something that absolutely sucks, which is trying to send money to someone, and the app takes like 3 days to automatically move it. I remember, I split my dinner tab, sent my friend their half, through this other app, and the money just sat in limbo for 2 days. I'm like, bro, I could have mailed you the check faster. That's why I've switched to Cash App. And honestly, I haven't looked back. It's fast, it's easy, and it works. Like I signed up with my phone number, didn't even need a bank account to get started. And when I sent my money, boom, it just showed up instantly. None of that processing delay BS. Plus, Cash App actually looks out for you. If you're about to send money to someone sketchy, it just gives you a heads up like, hey, here's some peace of mind that this might be a little bit scammy. And, I gotta say, I love how you can add custom messages, emojis, even, fun little backgrounds whenever you pay someone. Makes splitting brunch or drinks way less awkward and way more fun. So if you're still here and, you're trying to struggle to pay people, it's clunky, whatever, using some terrible app, make sure you download Cash App. And here's the kicker: use the code STAYHOT, all one word. You can send just $5 to a friend within the first 14 days, and Cash App is going to drop $10 right into your account. No catch, just literally free money. So make sure you hit the link in our description, download Cash App today, and use the code STAYHOT, and go ahead and change the way that you're sharing money, spending money, just everything, man. But let's get into something else that's just as good as Cash App. And you guys knew that I was going to bring him up as my next breakout player, and that is Jordan Battle for the Cincinnati Bengals. I have to do it, man.
I'm glad it's not Matt Corral.
Well, he's not on a team, so I can't. But if he was, I'd be all over it. But Jordan Battle at Alabama, I was always I wasn't super high on him coming out of college because I was like a little bit concerned about his ability to go sideline to sideline. He didn't seem to quite have the explosive, rangy athleticism that you see from some of the top safeties in the league. But he just always found a way to be around the football. I'm like, this guy he anticipates things really well. He's always in the right place. And then when he went to Cincinnati, his rookie year, I felt like wasn't playing a lot, but I felt like he was showcasing a lot of those same skill sets, just knowing how to be in the right place all the time. And then it just felt like every season they have found a way to bring someone in so that Battle doesn't have to play. And I know that maybe the Bengals know something that I don't, maybe he actually sucks. Maybe that's true. But every time I watch him, I'm like, this guy looks pretty good. I don't know why he's not playing more, especially when the safeties they have out there are terrible. So it sounds like he is supposed to be the starting safety this year in Cincinnati with their new defensive coordinator. I am convinced that if there will be a bright spot on Cincinnati's defense, it will be Jordan Battle.
I guess he's always around the ball.
It's just like
he doesn't have that many picks or tackles.
No, it's purely just like, to me, like a Kyle Hamilton-esque instinct to just like know
get downhill.
Like where the like he just like he can get downhill, and it's not even that he's like getting downhill faster than anyone. Like Kyle Hamilton's the same way. He doesn't have like the fastest 40 time or anything, but it's just when he commits to something, he commits so fast, like he reacts faster than everyone else, and that I think it's like he's not going to give up some crazy big play. But no, he doesn't have a lot of stats because he like doesn't play a lot. But no, I expect him this year to break out being the true starting safety there.
I mean, there's not too much behind him. It's Dejon Anthony and Tyson Anderson.
It's bad. Like,
So,
if he can't play this year, then I will give up. If he's
not
like,
really being pushed for too much playing time.
But if he doesn't play this time, new defensive coordinator,
That's
really
what I'm
light
saying,
depth
like,
chart behind them, we might have to.
I'll hang it up. I'll hang it up if that.
All right. Well. Here's the good news. I was worried that when we got to the defensive players, we might not have quite as many not his fault guys, because production doesn't work quite
Jordan
the same
Battle
on defense.
is the most not his fault.
So I guess. I mean, Theo, it's your call, of course, for the not his fault team, but we've got a great candidate here.
Actually, I need to watch more Jordan Battle because of Blaiden's love for him. Like, I don't know if I don't think you're right, but I also am like, well, maybe he is. I just have never noticed Bengals safety play.
I just feel like every time I watch. Oh no, it hasn't been, but that's because he's not out there, man. You got to put him out there more, right? You put him out there on these like total loser down situations. You got to put him out there. You got
to put him out on the winning downs.
There's rush downs and there's pass downs. Which one is the loser? Which one is the loser situation?
I feel like I don't have like numbers in front of me, but I feel like he's playing primarily on rushing downs. Or on like, I've seen him like, he'll be on the field as like a deep safety, and then they'll throw like a check down, and like he never even has like a chance.
His gravity,
but his gravity, yeah, it's just like, yeah, you know how every time he's on the field, they just like don't go his way, man. But I don't know. I think I do think that if maybe that's true. Hey man, I think if anyone's gonna break out for Cincinnati, at least on their defense, it'll be Battle. Like, they don't have a lot going for them, but I think he could finally have the breakout season that I've been just
you've been dreaming
for
I guess I don't know who I'd pick for a breakout. Maybe I'd take Asai or something. Like, one of these edges they've developed has to like eventually break out.
You would
otherwise
think, right?
Otherwise Burrow is doomed.
Yeah, otherwise the Bengals would be in like a bad spot. That can't be it. So
yeah,
Chris Jenkins Jr. Yeah, that'll be
Chris Jenkins. That would be cool.
I liked him a lot coming out.
I did too.
So I would like
TJ Slayton, maybe. He was kind of a productive nose tackle for the Packers. Maybe in a different blitzing man scheme, he could get some sacks, because he's always a better penetrator than like a two-gapping guy. But I digress. Matt, who's next?
I don't want to hate too much on Blaiden, because this next one, my third one.
Is it the Bengals backup safety?
it's the Bengals backup safety.
Actually,
it's one of my guys from the draft last year who didn't have the greatest season, but I think is in a little bit better of position. I think Jaylen Wright could see a lot more work than he did last year. When I watched him, I still thought he looked like a fantastic talent. His explosiveness is as good as you would expect. I mean, it's among the, I think, as good as any other running back in the NFL in terms of just maybe his straight up acceleration. I would say his top end speed is fantastic. And I thought overall, like when I turned on the tape, it was going to be a lot of maybe like poor reads or whatever. But I thought more so than not, like the offensive line there was just totally pathetic, right? And even then, there were some times where Wright can have these cuts where he'll see something that isn't open yet and then cut back and be able to play off of that cut very quickly when it's a little bit more ground than you would expect a normal running back to be able to cover and still keep going. Now you have Raheem Mostert not there anymore. They did bring in Ollie Gordon, but I'm not like the highest on him. And I know they have Alexander Madison, but I'm not the highest on him either. I think that he's in a really good position to get a solid amount of work. And if A-Chain goes down again, I mean, then he could end up being like the guy there. Miami invested some in their offensive line, a little bit in the draft, a little bit in free agency. So I'm hoping that the interior can like just trend towards mediocre or decent enough so where it's not like disaster, which is what it was last year. And it's just like, you know, they weren't going to do anything last season with the blocking that they had. But I have to admit, it's still definitely a risk that it could be not a different enough situation for Wright to like truly break out. But I do feel like he's going to have a better season. I am excited about him.
He did have the highest broken tackle rate of the backs in Miami. Like A-Chain, I know I ranked him top 10, and maybe I shouldn't have. He's quick and he's very reliable going downhill and using the sphere of influence of his offensive linemen and that kind of thing. But going back and watching him after that episode, it's like he's not really that pure elusive, you know, like make guys miss type of wiggle. He's more of a torpedo kind of going straight ahead until he stops. And he's really good at that, but maybe Wright offers them something a little bit more in terms of actual electricity. And so they'll want to keep handing him the ball. And yeah, every running back there gets a mulligan after last season. I mean, the blocking wasn't even, like, it obviously was bad. But for so many plays, it just never would even like get off the ground. Like they'd snap the ball and half the line wouldn't even know what they're doing. Or like the fullback would like turn around and like spread his arms at Daniel, like McDaniels. Like what was the snap count? Like what are we doing? Like it's like how do you not even like it's just a complete failure to launch type of run plays.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why I'm hopeful that like even just like you know, a borderline base level sort of competence brought into the room can change things a lot, even if it's not like fantastic.
Who's their offensive line coach?
Don't know.
I can't say that I know.
It's not Tony Soprano, I'm guessing.
It's not Tony Soprano.
Theo, who's your...
My last guy is probably the most random name that you could say, but it's Joe Tippmann. He is a center for the New York Jets.
Yes.
And I had him before on here, I think.
Have I actually brought him up?
Yes,
I feel like maybe you've brought him up one time.
He's a good center, man. Like he's a good center, and you just got to get a season where he's not allowing like the sack numbers aren't as bad as they were last year, which sounds really bad, but
it
like
does sound really bad.
But his pressure rate numbers are like top 20 in amongst offensive linemen in football. And so I think the sacks can go down quickly. And there's a lot of competence being added to that room, I think, with a new coaching staff and a quarterback who can avoid contact and offer things in the run game. And then they're also adding Membu, of course. I think that's the thing with a lot of breakout players is the entire kind of situation needs to go a certain direction. And when I look at the Jets rushing attack, I kind of feel like it is heading that way. And the offensive line generally has a lot of good pieces now. He's huge. He's 6'6", 313 pounds. So just a massive guy with a really crazy first step and reaching ability. And that is what makes me think like he could break out into something that is a little bit different than just like, oh, he's a solid center. He's fine. Like, he gets the job. He's there and we forget about him. Like, I really think he's got some potential to be like kind of a special center or a special weapon for that run game. They did sign Josh Myers, and Glenn has talked about competition in that room. Like, I watched Josh Myers last year. There really shouldn't be competition in that room. But if it's competition that Tippmann ends up winning and he was pushed, like, I'm fine with that. So I really there's talk that he might not even be the starting center. So why am I naming him as a breakout player? But I think he's definitely going to be a starting center, and I think that he's got some real good abilities.
He's going to fight and die for that starting job. That's
like, could he be the Jets rag now with all that Lions staff coming over? Okay. Like, I kind of think he has that size and athletic ability in his bag, and has gotten better and better since being a rookie.
I see the vision on it. Maybe it's just a bet on the ceiling rather than like the straight up percentage odds that everything works out perfectly, because there's competition.
And I look at the stat sheet, and that's where I see like the 5 sacks and some of the Jets fans talking on Twitter like, oh, he allowed too many sacks. That's what I see on him. But then I turned on the tape, and it's like, holy cow, these run blocks are awesome. Like, he totally just stepped in front of that guy, completely swiveled his hips, like sealed him off. No chance he's advancing even another step. And he's doing it as the biggest lineman that they have out there. Like, he's bigger than like Tyron Smith and Fashanu when I watch them all on the line. It's like, man, the sacks, I didn't watch every snap of every game, so I didn't see all those sacks. But like, from what I saw, I was like, man, he seems pretty stout to me. So hopefully he can get some lower some of those inconsistencies and just be a Pro Bowl type of player, because I think it's possible. Nice. One of the greatest calls of my career. Sorry, I'm talking about myself.
What's the greatest?
We were on a Bleacher Report live stream several years ago talking about breakout players.
Quinn Miners. Oh my god.
That's one of your good ones. That's one of your really, really good ones, man.
And I said Quinn Miners is going to break out, and now he's the best guard in the league. Yeah. Can I do it twice with Joe Tippmann? That's all I gotta say.
Shout out, man. Shout out. Well, I guess that leaves me for my last breakout. I'll throw out some honorable mentions that I thought about, but won't be my main breakout pick here. Peter Skoronski, Johnny Newton, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Audric Estime.
I like the
Estime, but the problem is they drafted Harvey in the second, which broke my heart.
I think it's going to be Harvey, but we'll see.
I think Estime is going to factor in more than people.
The reason why I threw Estime in there is just because I saw a clip from practice where Sean Payton was like, oh yeah, Estime is going to get his chance to start. Like there was it was very clear he's going to have his opportunity to win that starting job. So I'm like, if he can earn it, I think he could be really good. I was a big fan of him. But my main breakout guy for this year is Drake Maye. I mean, last year it was just so obvious to me that my favorite trait of his pocket presence translated to the NFL so seamlessly. He's just got great poise. He's got a great arm. Like, all the things that you would look for like a starting franchise quarterback, to me, he has. And he had it on like the worst possible offense. Like, just like bad play calling, bad run game, bad receivers. And now like it's not like a perfect situation, but they bring in Stephon Diggs, who he's like been seen on a boat. He's on a boat with like a bunch of women doing God knows what. But like they draft Will Campbell, who says he's gonna fight and die to protect Drake Maye with tears in his eyes. They draft Kyle Williams. They draft Travion Henderson, guys that we all like. And those are a bunch of rookies, but if even one of those guys end up being like a positive impact, I feel like that's moving them in the right direction. And even Diggs, I feel like is enough to, like, he might not go for like 1,600 yards or anything, but he's certainly better than anything they had last year.
Absolutely. I think, again, like, I like what they did. I like the players that they got. I think Henderson's going to be good. I think Campbell's going to be good. I think Kyle Williams is going to be good. And they absolutely are working from a place where it's like basically anything would be better than what they had last year. It was a total disaster. It's honestly a miracle. I feel like we kind of understand, like, what we should be doing right now is defending a campaign where Drake Maye had like more interceptions than touchdowns as a rookie or some bullshit like that. Like, that's what a lot of like, even like good players could have done in his spot, like, or like rookies in that spot. So the fact that he didn't, and the fact that I think I like the Vrabel hire and I like a lot of those additions, except for the Diggs ones, you know, makes you nervous in some ways. But I think it gives them a lot more talent than what they had last year in the receiver room. Yeah, I don't hate Maye as a shout.
Yeah, he completed 66% of his passes last year with like literally the worst receivers in football. I don't think that's like a far cry to say.
Yeah, he's such a good rushing threat, and he's such a good athlete, putting the ball anywhere he wants. And he did such a good job being accurate under pressure last year, and he was under a lot of it, where you just think, there's something to work with here. And immediately, like when it was Brissett versus Maye, even in preseason, and you saw the way those two like read the field, like Maye is way clear of where Brissett even was, like immediately after stepping in the building.
Yeah.
So I am not as high on his supporting cast as maybe you guys are, although I do like the run.
It's not that they'll be
running backs
good. It's that it'll be better than the worst in the league.
Well, there is potential for like Williams could end up being good for where he was picked, and Diggs could be okay, and like Campbell could be good, and Henderson could be a hit, and their like overall offense could still be a pretty weak supporting cast, you know, especially with how many of those guys are going to be rookies. It's like they might be good, but like young. Yeah, absolutely. There's some potential here.
Good secondaries playing man against that receiving core. It still is like, well, there's not going to be.
No, yeah, they're going to have some tough games. For
And Campbell, as a rookie, like I think he's going to be a quite a good player. But as a rookie, I can see where he'll get picked on and tackle. Like, I think he's going to need to clean up some stuff. So I think we're still going to be pushing not his fault agendas about Maye for at least another year. That's in my forecast. Right. So I don't know if the full Maye breakout will happen year 2, and it will happen more, kind of like with Pierce, right? Like it will happen more when we're actually sure that there's a good weapon there.
That's true.
That's fair.
But he's so talented. I think it could happen any time. And maybe Kyle Williams is just that guy, and maybe so is Will Campbell, and maybe it's just Drake Maye, and he's breaking out. And even if the passes are dropped, we can all see it. So
yeah, that's the thing is I'm just like, even if the supporting cast isn't like a total hit all around, I just know this is like I struggle to think of 10 quarterbacks I would want to start my team with over him.
Yeah.
Like he's that good. So
yeah, he's going to be good.
Players. Yeah.
I had one honorable mention, which was Dan Moore, but I determined that he already broke out, and that's why I got the Titans contract.
There we go.
I think he's going to find a way to kind of live up to the contract, and he'll break out in the public perception where instead of Dan Moore, like that guy's trash, it'll be like Dan Moore actually low-key is a good tackle. And the Titans were right to invest in him and win that bidding war to protect Cam Ward. I think he's so balanced. Like he's the king of keeping his head back while he's punching. Like he's just never not balanced. And I just love how he doesn't really get his head involved anymore. And his punch has become like one of the best in the league in terms of violence and speed of it firing and like just resetting kind of over and over again. I think he has short arms and he can't really like clinch and sustain right away, but like the constant pushing and resetting like gets him a lot of wins because he's big. So Dan Moore might be a public perception breakout.
Shout out. Matt, did you have any honorable mentions that you want to throw out?
No, I did not.
All right. Well, then I guess that'll wrap things up for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning into this NFL player breakout for the upcoming season episode. And shout out Ben Pfeifer once again for coming on to talk basketball with us. Not every day. Almost never do we get NBA content here on Stay Hot. So we see you in the comments asking for it. So we tried to deliver here with the NBA playoffs wrapping up and the finals getting started. But until next time, as always, from your favorite three fellas, Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you on the flippity flop.